And we're back! Yeah, after almost 2 months in Brazil, we needed some time with the family. Family wanted to see Oli, and it was awesome to be on the warm summer weather, but it's also awesome to come back to this cold, wet environment. And the reason for that is because we need to build a boat. Of course, the boat's right there, and we need to get to work. So in this video, I want to show you so many projects that we have for the next few months. But before I tell you everything about the next projects, there is one less old project that I want to share with you. And the reason for that is because it was so hard on Peter, the welder, that it's not fair for me not to talk about this project. And even though it seems like a small project, it made possible for us to open up space in order to have a completely different queue system that is going to be much better than the old one, in my opinion. So let's get started. I don't know if you remember, but I mentioned many times before that the chain locker for our sailboat was going to be in the feet of the mast, right under the mast, right there. But we decided to make things simple because I think that solution works, but it needs to be perfect, and I think the way it was designed, it wasn't perfect, and in this way it could create more problem than solutions. So we decided, let's play it safe, let's do like 99% of the sailboats they have the chain locker in the bow. And there's also one thing that I like with the chain locker in the bow. That means when you're on the windlass, you are seeing the chain. When you're in the mast, you're not seeing what's happening on the bow. And I think it's really important to see where the chain is moving and what's happening. So we are going to transfer the chain locker to the bow. But in order to do that, there is a few modifications that we need to do. So pretty much you have two options when it comes to bow chain lockers. You can have the floor of the chain locker lower than the waterline, and that means you need to have a bilge pump to pump any water from the bottom up. If you have salt water or fresh water, you need to pump it out. But if you have the floor higher than the waterline, that means you can have just a drain to the side and you don't need a pump. I prefer not having a pump, and the reason for that is because, of course, the chain locker, you always have some water coming inside because you have the chain. And if it rains, there's a big hole putting water inside, and for me it doesn't make sense. And the original design, there was a sail locker with the floor under the waterline, so now we need to create a second floor to make sure we make a watertight floor, and then we can have drains to the side. But if we're gonna do that, we first need to make sure the welds of the chines of the boat are perfectly, because if you have any failure on the chine weld, that means we're going to have water coming into a compartment that we won't be able to see. I mean, we're going to have like an inspection hatch, but we're not going to be able to weld inside. It's going to be really hard to access that space, so we need to make sure that's right. And the way to do that is with this. So this is what they call dye penetration test. The way it works, you apply first the cleaner. I think one of these, yeah, that's the cleaner. You clean the welds really properly. With that, you don't leave any dust, any burn marks or anything that needs to be fully clean the weld. So with the weld really clean, you apply a penetrant, a dye that's really thin, that's gonna penetrate in any imperfection of the weld. If there is a crack, it's gonna penetrate into the crack. If there is, I don't know, a little dot that you cannot even see with your eyes, it will penetrate into any cavity of the weld. And you wait for 10 minutes, and then you clean this penetrating test, and then you apply the developer. And the developer is a white paint that is going to show any imperfection. If there is any imperfection, the dye that went inside the imperfection is going to be sucked by the white paint, and it's going to show on the developer. So that means if you apply the white spray and you see any red dot, that means that's a failure point. You need to redo that weld.
I hope you don't have any red spot after the white one.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, if there is, eventually we are gonna find on the boat some failure welds. That's normal in any boat. If you go to the best boat yard in the world, they're gonna do the same thing and they're gonna fix the welds. We are gonna do that in the entire boat after we're done welding. For now, we're just gonna do it there because that's a place that we cannot access. So there are two ways of doing that. One way is to just test for cracks and for imperfections on the weld. And in this way, you just spray the dye and then you clean and you spray the developer on the same side of the weld. And if shows any red, that means that spot is a bad weld. But in our case, we also want to check for the water tightness of the weld. So we are gonna apply the ink in one side, the dye in one side, the developer in the same side, but we are also gonna apply the developer behind the plate, on the other side of the plate, because if there is any hole that goes actually through the plate, it's gonna show on the other side also, and in this way we can guarantee that the welds are watertight. That's a lot of theory, but to be honest, the most important thing is boat yoga starts again today. That's a really tiny chain locker. Wish me luck.
Good luck.
So now that the surface is clean, the weld is clean, it's time for the red one. This one. Now we just wait for 10 minutes and I can clean that, and hopefully we don't have that many spots, just a few.
10 minutes later, here he goes.
Let's see if it's possible to take 100% the red. They say you need to clean the red before you apply the white, but it seems really ready to me. Ready? Ready? Yeah, right. You got the point.
Nice one.
Wish me luck. Let's see if we have 1, 2, or 100 problems. So far we have just a tiny one. We'll get there. You're supposed to wait another 10 minutes for this to review, but I'm also going to apply on the outside to see if there is any really big failing point that goes also to the outside. Even though I'm pretty confident we're not gonna have problems on the outside, it's pretty scary. We're supposed to wait for 10 minutes and then it's gonna supposedly reveal any red spot on the outside, and that means if there is a problem, we need to grind and weld again. There are way too many layers of welds to have a lot of problems. Here we have like 4 or maybe 5 layers of weld on a really thick plate, so it's unlikely, but you never know. Let's wait and see.
So now is...
Are you sure you want to see that?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go in first, the bow locker, because here is where we're gonna see some red, because of course it's really hard to clean 100% every little detail of the weld. And when you have many layers of weld, some places you have a weld here and another one here, and it's just hard to clean. But I believe by the pattern of the red, you can tell if it's a problem or not. And to be honest, for us, the main problem is not structure-wise. I'm 100% sure it's plainly strong. It's water tightness, and for that, we're gonna go outside on the bow. But first, I wanna see here to see what's like. I don't know, just to have an idea. Yeah. Just as predicted, there are some red spots, but you can tell by the pattern that's not a problem at all. I believe I'm gonna show you one outside that is a problem, and then you're gonna understand. I think it's good news. Let's show you one problem. Come with me inside. see what actual problem looks like? That's an actual problem. You can see literally a spot right here and right there. This is the dye test from the other side of the plate that showed up on the developer on this side of the plate, and that means it travels somehow from the other side to this side. That means it's a problem. And that's a really simple one. We just need to grind and fix that one dot. But just remember that this is just the watertight bulkhead. The other side of this bulkhead is the chain locker, it's not the ocean. So this is not a huge deal, but of course we're gonna fix that little dot. The most important thing is the plate outside, because that's a big deal. Once you splash the boat, and you're not gonna know, but you're gonna have water coming through the weld, and that sucks. So let's go outside and show you how it looks outside. Pure white. That's perfect. So
that's good
what
news.
we test is this area. So this is the bulkhead. This is the joint of the chines. That's the other one. And you can see 100% white. There is not one dot of red, and that means our boat is watertight, at least on the bow. We're gonna test every single weld on the boat. I mean, on the boatyard they did. I remember this chine and this chine they did test on the boatyard, but I want to double check, of course, before we splash. But even before we start building the cabinets, because it's much easier to fix now than later. But it's really important that we don't see any red anywhere. So here we test from here down, this edge, this entire edge, and there is nothing anywhere. That means
We are safe.
and by the way, I put an extra amount of penetrating tests. I put a lot of red just to guarantee.
Who knows Duca already knows that he is always like exaggerating.
Yeah, it's. I just really, I don't want to have any doubt that we have a watertight boat, and that's really important, because if you find out that later, you can still fix, but it's gonna be a lot of work. Once you have cabinets, you have wood, you have things, it's hard to weld inside the boat. We had a metal boat before, and we know that welding is the easy part. The hard part is to access and not to burn other things. So yeah, I think that's a win.
Yeah.
We have one little place to fix that Peter can fix this week, and then we can start working on the structure to raise the floor, and it needs to be really strong, because we're gonna have 100 meters of 12 millimeters chain, and that means it's like 300 kilos or so. So we need to have a strong floor, and also we need to do the drains that are gonna be around here, like one drain in each side. That's really awesome.
The idea for now is to have a plate that's gonna be the floor, and also it's gonna have like a hatch to do like inspections on the bottom, right?
Yeah, so on our old boat, we had a floor that was watertight, and underneath the bulkhead, the watertight bulkhead didn't go all the way to the bottom of the boat, so there was a space under. You could access under the chain locker, but I don't really like this idea, because that means that if you hit a rock on the bow, your bow is not really watertight because it's open to the boat. So my idea is to keep watertight, but open like a small hatch, like a watertight hatch that we can unscrew and we can access to see if there is something, if there's condensation, or if, I don't know, if for some reason you have the failure of a weld or whatever. So that's the idea. We're gonna first seal the floor, and then we open two holes and make two little hatches to inspect.
Vertical ones, right?
No, just two round ones.
But vertical, not on the floor.
Yeah, on the bulkhead, on the watertight bulkhead. Good day.
Yeah.
A win. Always good to have a win. So while Peter is welding the structure for the new floor of the chain locker, I was going through the pile of aluminum that we have here. So that's our stock of aluminum. Some of this aluminum we are going to use on the boat. Some are projects that we changed it. For example, keel and rudders are going to be completely different from what it was before, and that means we need to buy new plates for that, and that means we have some leftovers. For example, this is the plate for the old rudder, and the new rudder is going to be completely different, so we cannot use that plate. I mean, we could try to use some parts of the plate, and then it ends up more expensive than buying new plates, so we prefer to use the ones we have here for different projects that we are not going to CNC cut the plates. For example, the floor of the chain locker, we don't need to CNC. We can make a 10 plate, and then we can cut from the plates we have. And of course, this is going to be overkill. That's the plate we had, so that's 8 millimeters. It's really thick. I believe with this plate, we could just not even have any reinforcement. But I don't know, it's just a little bit of weight
that guarantee a lot of structure for the floor of the chain locker. We're going to have 100 meters of 12 millimeters chain, and that weighs around 300 kilos, so that's a lot. And also putting this floor in place means we are reinforcing the bow of the boat even more. The bow was pretty good already, but now it's like icebreaker, and I don't think that's a waste of material. So the idea is to try to use these plates and to cut the shape that matches the bow locker. Let's see if we can do that.
Well, before we do anything else, I want to say thank you to Peter, the welder. These images won't make any justice to the amount of work that he put into making the bow locker that I wanted. And it's really hard because we didn't show you actually. He did that twice. The truth is, I screw up. I did the design, he started building the structure of the chain locker, and halfway through, when the whole structure was ready, the plates were cut to shape, not welded in place yet. So he had the structure, the plates cut to shape, and ready to start welding in place. And I realized the design was bad, and that was my fault. And he could have said, I won't do it. I mean, like, it's way too much work to go back in time. But in reality, he's like, if this is going to be bad for the boat, and you are always going to remember that it could be good and it's bad, I think we should do it. So the problem is, the floor was a little bit too low, was higher than the water line, but too close from the water line, and there was not much angle to take the water to the drains. And I realized, I just remember that on Odd, our old boat, every time we motor on Odd, the chain locker would be like this much, like I would say like 10 to 15 centimeters underwater, would be just full with salt water because the drain was too low. And I'm like, I just don't want to have a boat like that again. So we decided to cut the whole structure and to create a new structure, even stronger and higher with more angle. So the new structure now that is done has 10 degrees going towards the drain. And if you pay attention, in the center of the chain locker, there is a high spot. And that was the only compromise, because in order to have it in one piece, he would need to cut all the plates again. And I'm like, I cannot do that. I cannot make him cut a different plate. So he just welded a trim in the middle. It's strong enough. It will drain easy enough. It's no problem at all, because we have 10 degrees bow aft, but we also have like maybe 2-3 degrees from the center line to the sides. That means the center line is higher than the sides, and the reason for that is for the water to drain to the side. So that means it's just more aesthetical than anything else, and I'm like, that's good enough. We're gonna even paint the bow locker probably, and we're gonna create some kind of separation from the aluminum to the chain, because we're not supposed to have two different metals together with salt water. So we're gonna have some composite beam, or maybe, I don't know, skin around the aluminum. We're not sure yet, but it's not going to be in contact, so it doesn't really make a difference. So it's all good, and I'm really glad we've done that, because this project actually is going to open up space for us to have a centerboard on the boat, because we needed the space where the chain locker was to have the tower for the center. It's going to make our life a lot easier. I mean, we could have both, yes, but it would complicate a lot, and in this way it's going to be much simpler, and that means we can build quicker. The design is ready, we're starting to build that, so it's going to be much better for our project. Yeah, this being said, it's time to talk about future projects. When I say future projects, I mean like right now projects, because we are already working on those projects, and that's probably what we're going to be working on for the next 6 to 8 months. And let's talk about that. So from now on, this video won't have any cut. The reason for that is because way too many people complain that we shot sometimes videos exclusive for members and patrons, and we do up-to-date tours of the boat. Just so you know, I'm recording this the day before you watch, and that means everything you watch from now on, it's really up to date, and that's what's happening right now with us. So we are not going to do that every week, but this week we decided that it's been 2 months without videos, so you deserve to know everything that is happening behind the scenes, with a few little details that we're going to take off, and we're going to shoot another video for patrons and members later, because we're not sure about that, and I don't want to make people confused if things change in the future. So I'm going to tell you everything that we are 100% sure that's happening, and the rest we're going to leave out, otherwise it's just too confusing. And also, as you know, these kind of videos, they have no edit, because we cannot edit it in one day. So that means it's one take, one shot. So if I rumble, if I talk too much, if I stop, you ask for it, because you always say that you want these videos to be open for everyone. So that's what these videos look like. So there is one thing missing on the bow locker, and I hope you saw that. If you didn't, I don't know, just guess. Just put on the comment section below what is missing that we didn't do. We talked about that in the beginning of the video, and we didn't do to the bow locker. Now that you already comment, we have no drain yet. That's a simple thing. It's just a hole to each side with a little cover. The reason why we didn't do that is because in order to do that, we might need to put the welding machine on the ground level, and that's a lot of work for such a small project. So we are waiting for another big project to do everything at once, and the big project is the bowsprit. So we're going to have a bowsprit there, and the bowsprit is not yet in place because we also changed the design. The old bowsprit was complicated to build, was harder to build, not too complicated, but was harder to build. And also, I don't think it had enough space for the roller. I think it was not that well designed. I rather do something much simpler, but really strong, that can support really well the anchor we want. And we are building that around the anchor. We know exactly the anchor you're going to use. We're going to use a Mentus anchor. We've been friends with them for a long time, and the whole design was literally made around the anchor we want from them. And the reason why we didn't build yet is because we need to buy new material for that, and I've been trying to find a place to cut the aluminum, and I just cannot find, because I don't want to buy new aluminum. I want to cut the aluminum we have, because we have a lot of spare aluminum from the old keel that is the same thickness we want, and we have the amount that we need, so why not cut from our material? And I gave up. So yesterday I just printed on a scale 1 by 1 the joints, and I'm gonna cut myself on the weekend, next weekend, and then Peter can start working on that. So it's the bowsprit with the chain roller. Also we need to add cleats, one cleat here and one cleat here, and also we need to do the reinforcement of this entire area for the wingless. We need to install the wingless, but I want to do that after the roller is in place, so we can have the perfect alignment. By the way, the wingless is here already. We already bought the wingless. I'm gonna show you in the end of this video. So that means with the cleat, the bowsprit, and the wingless, this area is done, except we need to do the hinges for the locker hatch. That is this one right here, but that we are gonna do later. With the cockpit hatches, we do everything at once, it's easier. Also, there's one more thing. Here there is a watertight bulkhead, so here's the bulkhead. We need to have a chain plate starting here. This chain plate is for the cutter sail. The other chain plates are going to be on the bowsprit, and they're already on the plate. Is going to have already the hole for the chain plate. This one we need to cut the deck and install from scratch. And the reason why we didn't do that yet is because we are going to do that when we do the other chain plates. And the reason why we didn't do that yet is because we were closing the design of the mast. We are on the final decisions to actually buy the mast, and we want to wait for that, and then we do all together, and that's one of the next steps. But we're going to divide the next projects in 2 phases, and this is phase number 2. Phase number 1 is everything we're going to talk about on this video. Phase number 2 is a different story that I'm not ready to talk about that, but soon we're going to talk about that. With that done, we need to do all the cleats on the boat. I don't know if you can tell, but this is really, really beautiful and strong cleat. Yeah, this was custom made at Robin, the factory where we live. We have all the parts for all the cleats of the boat. This was done professionally in automated machines. Each one of those took probably, I would say, like 4 minutes to do the whole machining. It's really, really, really quick. Some people comment that this is too close. We are actually going to cut a little bit more these tabs to make sure we have enough space for the line. These were comments done by patrons, because patrons seen the design a long time ago actually. Also we have the reinforcements. Sorry for the train. As I said, one shot. If the train passes, the train passes. So all the cleats have already a reinforcement plate on the underneath. As you can see, you have a mark of the weld here. The deck is 6 millimeters. The plate underneath is 15 millimeters. So together we have 21 millimeters. Also, the cleat is gonna go deeper than the plate. And on the inside, we're gonna have a reinforcement on the inside, and we're gonna attach that to the frame and to the stringers. So it's gonna be really, really, really strong. And there is one here, one there, 2 on the bow, plus 2 on the middle, plus 4 on the back. What else? We need to weld frames to all the hatches. So the deck hatches, for now we just have the hull, but we don't have the frame where we're going to screw the hatch to it. The reason why we didn't do that before is because we were deciding what hatch to use. And now that we actually bought the hatches are going to arrive in 2 weeks probably. We know exactly the model, the size and everything. So now we can finally make the frames. And that's really important, because let me show you more things and you're going to understand. Because we have more things. We want to make the boat watertight as soon as possible. That's the truth. And the reason for that is because I cannot hold. We're going to take the boat out of the shed. Just hold this information. I'm going to explain soon. So while we were in Brazil, Peter did work a few times on the boat, and he'd been working on this really big project that we've been waiting for a long time. That is the finishing around the roof. I don't know if you see the difference from before and now. So we have this finishing, and also right before we went to Brazil, me and him worked on this pipe. So this pipe, we have one in each side, is the pipe that's going to bring all the lines from the mast. Here's going to be the mast step to the cockpit. So the reason for that is because the side of the deck house, the deck saloon, is too narrow. If we put the lines on the deck, it's going to be really hard to walk on. So we decided to have that inside the roof, and I think that's going to make it easier to walk around. And also, he did work on the pipe that's going to take the rainwater. That's winter, that's condensation from the night, and right now we have some Sikaflex on the pipe to make sure that the water doesn't go inside. The reason for that is because we don't have the hose inside yet, so that means if we don't close that, we're just going to have something putting water inside the boat, and that's not good. It's going to just sit a lot of water inside, so in this way we guarantee that no water is inside. So the sides are in place. I don't know if you see the finishing. Remember, we had an old logo there from the boatyard. We don't have anymore, so that's a surprise. What's underneath the table? I'm not sure. We'll see in the future. I mean, probably next video. So the next video is probably going to be all about this finishing of the roof and showing this plate. This was CNC cut on Robin also, and it looks beautiful. What's under? That it needs to be a surprise. It's pretty cool. I really like it. So yeah, that's something really cool. And then from here, we decide to change another design on the boat. I don't know if you remember, but here was a single plate. We decided to make a double plate, and the reason for that is because even though it was strong enough, it passed the calculations for certification, it's a weak spot if you touch a dock. If you hit a dock, this would bend easily, and now we did something really reinforced inside, and also the cleat's gonna be here, and easier this way. This one is open, so the cleat is gonna go from the top, weld to the bottom, and weld to the back. The back here is just 8 millimeters. Here is 8 plus 10. We have a double plate, really thick plate on this whole top area, and that means it's really, really reinforced. And also we need to add some chain plates. So this chain plate is for the running backstay, that we need to do it now, otherwise it's going to be harder to do it later, before we close the side plate. This is a long one. Yeah, sorry if I'm speaking too fast. I'm just trying to not record a 1 hour video, because I want to show you everything that we have for until now, just to make sure you are up to date. And if I'm really slow, it's going to take way too long. So that's one project that we need to finish. That's one of the next projects. Here you can have a better view of the tunnel. That's right there. It goes inside. He has still like maybe 1 or 2 days to finish this detail around the roof, because you still have some welds to do on the edges here, for example. You see, he needs to weld more and then grind, and then it's going to be round perfectly. Let's see inside. So here's the tunnel in one side, the tunnel in the other side. That's pretty much ready. Also, another project that we started work but we didn't finish yet, we didn't show you yet, is the bow thruster tunnel. I don't know if you see the hole there. Let's see. So this is the hole for the bow thruster. Let me see if I can see the here. Can you see there? So that is the tunnel. We just need to put in place. It's already 100% ready. We just need to clean, put in place, and weld. We're not going to do that now. We're going to wait until we are out of the shed, and I will explain you why in a minute. One more project that we need to finish before we go out of the shed is the port lights. So we have so far 2 holes for port lights, but I don't like the design. I think they're too long and too big for the bow of the boat. It becomes a hazard. I think you can break, or you can hit something, or you can move because it's too big. So we decide to have a little bit smaller, and the size is going to be around this size. So what we're going to do, that is going to be a little bit complicated, but I think it's possible. We are going to close this in the middle, and then have a smaller one and a smaller one, 2 next to each other. And we are going to use a different kind of framing that we saw at KM Yachts. As you know, we sometimes visit KM Yachts. We are pretty good friends with them, and I really like the way they have the round portholes on their boat, on the BC Virus. It's made out of one block of aluminum that is machined to have a frame that you put the glass, and then you put a back frame on the back. We're going to do the same thing, but square instead of round. If we would go back in time, we would probably do it round, but it is what it is. Too late, the hole is there. So we need 4 port lights here, and then we need 1 for the head here, 1 for our cabin there, and 1 for the galley there. And then that's it for port lights. So if that goes well, we have the port lights, we have the hatches. The glazing is the one that we didn't buy yet, but I just talked to the guys today actually. Yeah, I don't know if you see, but there is a lot of really thick aluminum around. Like, this is way overkill, and that's a long story. The reason why we have that is because the roof of the boat was crooked so badly because of a mistake that the boatyard did on the deck that transferred the force to the roof, and that was bent. I'm not sure when we're gonna do this video. It's just a long video to edit because there is a lot of back and forth in trying to make the frames straight. And now we're really close to straight, and we still need to do a little bit more work on that. And then we can glue the glazing that I was ideally thinking on doing double glaze, but then talking to a lot of boatyards, I see that a lot of the boatyards gave up on doing double glaze because when you go to a cold weather place and a warm weather place,
a lot of times it crack the seal in between, and that can become a really big problem. So a lot of them, for example, Aluba, they say do one glass and then you do an acrylic on the back, on the inside part of the boat, and that helps a lot for condensation and is a lot safer in the long terms to keep. I'm not safer, but it's a lot more less likely to have problems in the future. So that's what we're gonna do. So glazing is almost done. We need to order the glazing. We are talking to the company that's going to do the glazing. That is going to be Trend, that is from Lipad, the same one as the hatches that are Luma. That's the same company. What else? Glazing. We still need to decide these and these windows that are going to open. That's on the same company. We are working on that. We still need to do some reinforcements on this bulkhead. This bulkhead, it needs more reinforcement. You can see that it's a little bit like this, so you need to straight up and put reinforcement. Also, we run the calculations with the new designers of the boat, and in order to pass CE certification, we need to put some stringers. So we need to put 2 stringers on the side and 1 on the bottom plate. That's one more thing we need to do, but it can be after we go outside, it's no problem. What else? Let's go down. So in order to go outside, there are 2 big things that we need to do. One is to take the extension of the shed off. And before you say, that was useless, you just used for a few months, and now we're going to take the whole structure off. 100% worth. We would not work half of the days if we had no extension. Right now it's raining, for example, and Peter could be working under the shed. I mean, the reason why he's not working, he's on vacations today. He's on his last 2 days of vacations. He went skiing in France, and tomorrow or the day after he's back, and this week we're going to work on the boat. So we need to take the extension off, and we're going to use these plates to close the workshop around that you don't have finishing, so it's not going to be useless. After that, we also need to prepare the cradle. So this used to be a shelf for steel. It's like a steel beam shelf. So imagine that this was up this way and was in the factory, and that's really, really, really strong. Check the thickness of that. Made out of steel. So we need to level this first because the ground is not level at all because of the drain. So we have a drain here and the ground is not level at all. So Peter said just level this first, put some wood support underneath, and then I can weld supports to guarantee that it stays level. We didn't need wooden support. I put one little aluminum block and it level both axes. It's perfect. So now next week he's gonna weld some legs and make sure that this doesn't move. We can mark the ground to know exactly where it sits. Then we need to add some steel beams here in order to put the boat on the top of it. The reason for that is because we are finally gonna install keel and rudders on the boat. We didn't talk about that yet, but Peter, the welder, said, I don't feel confident to build the keel and the rudders because I'm not a boat builder, I'm a welder, and I don't really understand about keel and rudders. So we decide we need a welder that has experience on boats. It's a long story, but I'm going to try to make it really short. Like, I think 8 or 10 years ago, I met on Facebook out of nowhere a guy from France that used to work for a boatyard called the same boatyard that built this boat. And back then, I really liked the boatyard because the boatyard was the one that designed our old boat, Odd. He is actually a personal friend of the guy that designed Odd, and that's pretty cool. And I started talking to this guy, and this guy actually left the boatyard before we arrived. He left before the new owner bought the yard and destroyed the yard. He worked there for the old owner. And everyone I talked to on France about welding boats, they say this guy Matteo is really good. He's actually really good. And I met him in person twice, and he's a really cool guy that feels ashamed because he feels like we might not like his country because of what the boatyard did to us. And in reality, we don't dislike the country, we dislike the guy that did that to us. And he's like, no, if you need help, I'll help you because I want you to have something good from my country. So we hire him to build keel and rudders and also engine support. As we speak,
he's building that in South France. He already bought the whole material. He's already working on assembling the keel and rudders, and soon he's gonna ship that to Belgium, and he's gonna come himself for 1 week to weld the keel in place and the rudders in place and the engine support and also the the stern tube in place. And also he's gonna be the guy that's gonna weld the bow thruster tunnel. So that's why the bow thruster tunnel is not welded yet, because he's gonna do that. But in order for him to come, we need to move the boat outside. We need to take the boat higher and put on the support. And what I like about this support is that we have enough clearance that we can slide the keel in, and we can install the keel without a crane. We can have a crane when we put the boat here, we align, and then he just comes, slide the keel, weld in place, and we're good to go. So that's probably a huge milestone for us, because after that the boat's not going to go inside the shed anymore, and that's going to make life a lot harder. And that's the reason why we're trying to push forward the date that he comes, but we cannot push much, because he said when the winter is over I start having a lot of jobs in my own shop, so I cannot go during summer. It needs to be now during winter, and that means it needs to happen soon, otherwise we're in trouble. And also, as we talked about before, this year Peter won't have much time to work on our boat, so that means we are like, the clock's ticking, we are running out of time, and that's really complicated because we have a lot of jobs to do. We'll talk about that later. I don't want to make these videos so long, that is already long, but even longer than it's supposed to. So boat moves to outside, we do that. Now let's show you some things that we bought already for the boat, and that's pretty cool, because even though you might think, oh, you're in Brazil in vacations for almost 2 months, you didn't do anything. No, the reality is I've been working on the computer really hard to get parts that we need for the boat. And here are some examples. For example, on this box we have all the hardware necessary for the lazarets. All the locking mechanism, all the spring, I don't know how to call that, the gas spring. Everything we need in order to have lazarette hatches that actually work properly. Underneath that, that's a big one. That's the aluminum for the frames of the portholes. So underneath, let me try to put this somewhere. 1 second. Hold on with me. Oh, no. Just a second. Yeah, better. Let's hope this doesn't fall from here. Stay there. So this is probably one of the heaviest equipment we bought so far for the boat. I don't know if a GoPro will make justice, but this is massive. So this is our 24 volts wingless. That is a Maxwell RC12 HD, if I'm correct. So the number 12 RC12, they have in 2 different models. They have the 12 normal, that is 1200 watts. And there is the 12 HD, that's the hard heavy duty. So the 12 HD So the 12 HD heavy duty is the one meant for small working boats, and this, instead of 1200 watts, is 2000 watts, so 2000 watts. So this is much stronger and with a different gearbox. So this is a proper heavy duty wingless, and the reason why we want such a heavy duty wingless is because, in my opinion, the wingless is our insurance. That's a really important piece of equipment on the boat to guarantee that you won't go to the rocks, or that something bad it happens when, I don't know, the wind pick up and the wind change and you need to pick up anchor quick. On our old boat we had a mechanical wingless that was really good, reliable, but slow. It would take us 20 to 30 minutes to take the anchor out, and that's way too long sometimes, and it can mean you go to the rocks, and this way we are safe. That's pretty good. Let's see what else we have here.
That's another cool one. Let me open this one really quick. I don't know if that's way too close, like box in box in box. It's gonna be hard to open. But this is our beautiful bow thruster. So the bow thruster is here also. It's gonna be a Sleipner, and that's a really big model one. It's the E150. So E150, and that means 150 kilogram force bow thruster. And that's a really strong one. Just to put in perspective, a Garcia Exploration 45 uses a 100 kilogram force bow thruster. This is 50% stronger, and the reason for that is because we have a really high freeboard, and Sleipner says if you want to work together, we need to have one that actually works in any condition, and in order to have this one, that's the right model. So the E150 is going to be a really, really strong bow thruster, and I cannot wait to test because we never had one, and it's going to be awesome to maneuver the boat. What else? Let's go to the bow thruster. Let's out for the bow thruster. Oh, this is a really cool one. So I forgot to show you, but we need to build a watertight bulkhead door on the entry of the boat, and the reason for it is because I really like it the way our old boat was designed, with a watertight hatch on the entry of the boat, and I don't want it to have a boat that, I don't know, is not sealed after having odd. You get used to it. Oh, damn it, camera. A second. Yeah, what I was saying is that after you have one reality, it's hard to step back and have something that's worse than you had before. But this door is much, much bigger than odd. So we needed proper equipment to build that, and we're going to build a custom-made door. And for that, I decided to buy one of the best, or the best one that I know of at least, locking mechanism around. That is this one. Look how beautiful this is, custom-made. So this is the mechanism that's gonna make sure that the door is watertight. This is the same one used on Garcia boats. On Garcia Exploration 45 is the same door lock. But instead of ordering the entire door like they do, we talked to the same company and we just ordered the parts, and we're gonna custom make the door because it's really hard to explain them what we need from the door. We need to have a door that opens in two parts, and it's gonna be way too easy to make mistakes, so we decided that instead we want to make our own. So we bought the parts and we're gonna make our own. So this entire box is related to that, with the seal. Oh, sorry, I lost you. Yeah, so this entire box are parts for that. The seal, the gasket, also the, I don't know, locking mechanism. So everything on this box is related to that. Next on the list, that's a heavy one. This is one of those projects that I really like from Odd, and I want to make it even better. On Odd, we didn't have a shaft going from the propeller to the engine. We had a shaft going to the seal, and then a corner shaft from the seal to the engine with a truss bearing inside the seal. On this boat we're going to have the same thing, but instead of having so in this boat we're going to have the same thing, but instead of having a corner shaft, we're going to have a constant velocity joint, so a CV joint, that is this one. And this is really good because, first of all, the engine is going to accept a lot more disalignment, and that's really good. It's going to vibrate less, and if it vibrates less, we can have soft mounts, and we have a lot less stress on the mounts, and I think that's really good for the boat. And it means that the whole force of the boat is going to be transferred to, the whole force of the propeller when it pushes the boat is going to be transferred to the boat through this system, not through the engine mounts, and I think it makes total sense. That's just part of the system. The rest is on the box. It's just too much to open now. Again, it's just I don't want to make a 2 hours long video. That's probably an hour already. So, pretty good. And that means, talking about that, we just need now a propeller and a shaft that we're already talking about that with the other companies that produce propeller and shafts, and we have everything that we need to install the engine. I mean, we didn't talk about the engine yet. Yes, we bought the engine already. The engine is going to arrive probably in 2 or 3 weeks here. That doesn't mean it's going to go inside the boat yet, but the engine is arriving. We're going to talk about that, which engine we're using, why we're using that engine, everything when it arrives. When it arrives, we're going to do one video talking all about the engine. But I'm really excited because once the engine arrives, the boat's outside, the keel and rudder and engine mount is installed. The next step for me, I believe, is to install the engine, and that's going to be really awesome because it's going to be easier to install the engine before we have more things inside the boat. So the engine is the next one to go inside. And also I've been doing some other things like testing materials for next steps, and that's something that we do behind the scenes. But as we were talking about behind the scenes, let's talk about behind the scenes. I don't know if we ever showed you that, but that's a sample from a non-skid material from Sika that's made out of polyurethane. That's not even the way they use this material. That's my own way of using, just to see if I like the material itself, and not even the color probably we would use, but it's just a test for now. Here is a sample of our door. I don't know if I ever did, but that's a sample of the door I was talking about. So we need to open in 2 pieces, and that's a prototype in scale, just the prototype. And that's the prototype of how the door is going to close, the hinge. Oh, I took the... Yeah, this is supposed to be... Yep. Now you can see better. That's the flange around the bulkhead, so that's how the door is going to open and close. And that is just for me to try to understand the system in a real scale. This represents the seat of the cockpit, this represents the bulkhead, this is the flange. In this way I can actually see if it works or not, and that's how I designed the system. I designed myself. Also, what else? Here are some samples of pieces that I'm gluing. One thing that we need to do on this boat, because we don't have much frames, is to glue the structure for the cabinets to the hull of the boat. And we are trying to use a different kind of glue. This is a glue from Sika that is not normal Sika Flex. This is a glue called Sika Power 880, if I recall right. Let me see. Just give me a second. Yeah, Sika Power 880. This is a 2-component epoxy glue that is meant to be structural, so that you can glue, literally you could glue the stringers of the boat inside the boat using the Sika, and this is structural, it's meant for that. For example, a lot of cars, this is mainly for the car industry, cars like, I don't know, Land Rover, it's glue, a lot of the panels are glue with that glue instead of welded, because they use such thin plates that if they weld, it deforms too much, so they need to glue. And that's what I'm trying now to test, to see how much force I can apply, and also to see, for example, if I glue aluminum to wood, will that hold in different temperatures? Now it's really cold. I want to take this to the sun later and see if this is going to dilatate differently and crack the glue or not. That's a good question, I have no idea. Also, I can use to glue supports for the ceiling, so that's clipping mechanism from fast mount. So I'm testing to see if I can glue fast mount to plywood directly to the aluminum. If I can glue stringers, that's a stringer. If I can do really thick structural glue bound, and that's sitting here for like 2 months now drying, and then I'm waiting for a hot day to put outside. That's not going to be anytime soon, so I can test in different temperatures, and then I can try to, I don't know, crack open and see what happens, to see if that holds or not, and to know exactly where we're going to use that, because we could use that for a lot of things. We could use that just to wood the cabinets, but we also could use that to glue the, I don't know, shower cabinet in place, or we could use that to weld. Instead of welding supports for water maker, we could just glue the support instead of welding. There's a lot of things, because once we start building things inside the boat and you want to weld something else because you forgot, it's really complicated because you're going to burn other things. So with that, you can weld anytime you want, and that would be awesome. What else? I think that's it for now. I think you saw, oh, also I didn't show you because it's not here. It arrived already, the seal, the shaft seal system, and also the lip seal for the rudders from Jeffrey Steering. Arrived, it's in the house. And also tomorrow is gonna arrive the steering system from Jeffrey Steering. That's freaking awesome. There's a steering system that I've been wanting to use for years, and that's unbelievably strong. And we built a system that's like meant for boats like 60, 70 foot, and it's gonna be way overkill to our boat. And the reason for that is because we are tired of our last steering system that we broke the quadrant twice on one, and this time nothing will happen. We also bought the autopilot that goes with, and the autopilot's really strong, and I think it's gonna be overkill but really good. And I think that's it. I think you're up to date now. We still have some little things that we already record, but we are waiting for the projects to be done so we can show you. We don't want to show you half projects. It's annoying when we show you something that's not complete, and that's the reason why, and that's the reason why some projects we hold, but soon they're coming out, and hopefully in 2 weeks we're gonna have the roof done so we can show you on the next episode the roof, and then we probably go to the cleats, and from there we keep going. I see you on the next one. Sorry for talking for that long. Oh, by the way, one last thing that I forgot is I believe we're going to stop doing real-time updates for members. The reason for that is because it's playing against us. We do the updates because we really like to shoot this kind of updates that is just a freestyle video of me rambling and just, I don't know, expressing myself and telling you what's happening on real time. Like this video that you just watched. Of course, we do sometimes give more information than we did now. The reason why we hold some now is because are things that we're not 100% sure yet, and we don't want to share that with everyone because it complicates things. But it feels like every time we post a video for members, a real-time update, people get mad saying that we only make videos for who pays. And that is really annoying because we lose a lot of subscribers. And the most annoying thing is we always done this kind of videos for patrons, but as no one knew that, no one complains. Now that it shows up in front of you, you complain. So we're gonna keep doing that for patrons. So if you're a member and you still want to watch those kind of videos, cancel that members platform and just go to Patreon. It's just changing platforms, and we are still gonna do the same kind of videos on Patreon platform. On members, we're not gonna cancel the whole platform. We're gonna leave there, and we're gonna post the videos earlier for members, and that's all. So it's no different than everyone else. It's just a couple days whenever the episode is ready, we post for patrons, and then we post on the exactly date that we always post on Sunday for the rest. But if you want to watch the extra content, it's better to go to Patreon, because on Patreon, no one sees that happens. Only the patrons know, and people don't complain. It's just, I don't know, it's a mental thing. If shows in front of you triggers you to think that we're bad people, and I don't think we're bad people, so I'd rather just take this trigger off, and now you won't see that anymore, and then you think, oh, they just make videos for everyone. And the truth is we always made videos extra for patrons to thank them for supporting us. The only reason we can do what we do is because we have patrons. And it's true. A lot of the things we done, it was possible because patrons. It's insane. Like, we've been doing YouTube full time for almost 10 years now. And if you go back 10 years, I think half of the money that we used, or at least 40%, came from patrons. And that's unbelievable. And we need to say thank you. That's all. We really appreciate you guys, and we will always appreciate. But let's talk. We see you on the next one.